Wow. That's a pretty powerful statement.
Your faith.
Yep.
Why is it so important to you? What does it mean to you? Tell us why, when you go every single day to work, how faith is a part of who you are.
Well, I mean, first is I believe like the fundamental tenet of the Christian faith, it's not just a set of good moral principles, though it is that. I think the fundamental tenet of our faith is that the Son of God became man, he died, and then he raised himself from the dead. That is the fundamental tenet of the Christian faith, and I think so much flows from that. And I think one lesson that flows from that is that we shouldn't fear death. Of course, death is a very bad thing, but there are much more terrible things than just losing one's life, and importantly, you could lose one's soul. And I think whether it's fighting for the unborn or fighting for peace and security for our citizens, I want us to be the kind of society where my kids can grow up to be virtuous young people, can be good.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful statement. It makes you think for a minute, doesn't it? There are much worse things than death, right? We're all going to die, losing a loved one, but losing your soul and you're still alive. And for the next 50 years, you're like a soulless thief. You're a soulless human being who's greedy, who doesn't care about your community. You know, you become soulless. That's worse. You live out your days soulless. That's a powerful thing. Wow.
Young Christians, of course, because that's what I'm trying to raise them to be. And that's what our public policy is trying to do. Creating the space where moms and dads can raise their children in their faith to become good young people who believe the things that I do. That is what I'm trying to create, is the space for you, of course, to raise your children as you see fit, but the space for me to raise my kids to be the kind of young people that I think they ought to be. And the other thing that I take from it, Mercedes, is if you look at the long history of the Christian faith, we've been around for about 2,000 years now, give or take a few years, and there have been really dark times in the history of the Christian faith. There have been really good times in the history of the Christian faith. And I just try to remind myself that we put our faith in God above, we put our faith in the grace of God, and we try the best to do His will, and we don't worry so much about whether we're going to have earthly rewards. We worry about whether we're doing right by God Almighty above. That's what I try to do,
Amen.
And that's how I try to run my life in public.
You mentioned raising these children into good people and also into good citizens that
Yes.
can contribute to society and to the world. We had so many young people come out and support Donald Trump
Yes, we did.
and J.D. Vance
And thank you.
this past election. So what is your message? And what is your message to the young men?
You know, I guess my message to young people generally is we're trying to make your life better. And that is the simple thrust of President Trump's policy is we want you to be able to buy a home. We want you to be able to work a good job. We want you to be able to raise your kids, like I said, according to the values that you believe in. And we want you to be able to build a nice life in this country that all of us love. That is what we're trying to do. And, you know, you guys more than anybody, more than me, I'm talking about people under the age of 30 in particular, you guys are going to have to deal with the consequences of good policy or of bad policy for much longer than the rest of us. And I want you guys to think about the future and ask yourself, do you want safe communities? Do you want a prosperous life? Do you want to be able to work a good job? Or do you want that job shipped off to China or somewhere else? We're fighting for you every single day. We want you to help fight for us because we've got to win. Not just the policy battles of the next couple of months. We've got to win the midterm elections in a couple of years. We need you. We recognize that we need you, and we're fighting for you every single day. And I think, you know, you asked me, you know, my message to young men is I think that our culture sends a message to young men that you should suppress every masculine urge.
Yes, it does.
You should try to cast aside your family, You should try to suppress what makes you a young man in the first place. And I think that my message to young men is don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. It's...
Wow.
Our message, the cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is, I think that it wants to turn everybody, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that.
Wow.
And by the way,
that's your biggest applause line.
I actually think, Mercedes, this is the thing that President Trump, this is why the media went after him so hard, is because, you know, when I think about, like, what is the essence of masculinity, you could answer this in so many different ways, but when I think about me and my guy friends, we really like to tell jokes to one another. Like, we like to laugh. If you think of all the movies that were really popular.
Are you saying you're pretty funny?
I try to be.
Okay, President Trump, who's funnier? Who's funnier?
President Trump.
All right, there you go.
Let's be honest.
There you go.
He's got the best sense of humor of any American political figure. But I think this is why young men in particular are so, you know, they're so inspired by President Trump, is because he doesn't allow the media to tell him he can't make a joke or he can't have an original thought. President Trump just says what's on his mind. That's a damn good thing, and it's a good example to set for young men in American culture.
Wow.
You know, I always tell my 5 daughters, so I don't have any sons, but Matt and I, we have 5 beautiful daughters, and I always say, you know, the most important decision you'll ever make is who you marry.
That's right.
Always who you marry. And you made a very important decision in marrying Usha.
I did.
He's absolutely right. I mean, we talked at length on our show about the feminization of men in this country and how we're telling young boys to basically not take risks, to basically act like girls, be androgynous, like he said. It's almost indistinguishable from being a girl. And we almost want girls to be boys. Androgyny, that's exactly what the Biden administration wanted. I mean, you're seeing it reflected all over culture. You're seeing it in video games now, where it's like, oh, wait a minute, is that a woman as the protagonist in this game? It looks like a man, like a shaved head, and like, I mean, really? Like, this is what we're reduced to now? Women are not allowed to look beautiful. Men are not allowed to look strong and masculine. Like, what? I love this discussion about just be a man. Tell fun jokes with your friends. You know, even if they're a little crude. Like, that's what guys do. And just act like a man again.
I'm married up.
She is a beautiful second lady, and I want to know, what is the best advice Usha has given you?
Well,
This is so fun. Okay.
This is going to be very personal. One piece of advice she gave me like a week ago was, you should be nicer on social media. I don't know that I'll take that advice.
He hasn't been.
Some advice is good. Some advice is, can be good, but you don't have to always take it.
And he didn't.
You sound like my husband.
The best advice Usha ever gave me, when it comes, I mean, she gave me so many good life advices, or pieces of advice, but the best advice she gave me when it came to politics is, don't let them filter you. And in politics, you've got consultants, and you've got media professionals, you've got pollsters, you've got a lot of people who try to tell you what to say or how to behave or, what to do. And Usha just said, just be yourself, be authentic, go out there and say what's actually on your mind, maybe a little nicer from time to time. But I think that's the best advice that she gave me, and that's why we take our kids everywhere, and that's why I'm not afraid to make a joke on social media, even if it's sometimes a dad joke. I forgive me, all of you who don't like dad jokes, but you just got to be yourself. Yeah. And I think that's President Trump's superpower in American politics, and that's probably the best advice Usha ever gave me, at least on politics.
That's good advice.
Okay, last question. What inspires you every day?
Well, I mean, one is my family, right? I mean, I'm blessed to have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and I can't help but see the country through their eyes. And when we were on the campaign in particular, and we would take our kids with us, all of my kids, when we were about to land in some new place, they'd all rush to the window of the plane and they'd look out and they'd say, "Oh, Dad, this looks so cool." Like, the beauty of the Arizona cactuses and Arizona deserts. Or, we'd be in Texas for a fundraiser and they'd be like, "Oh my God, like, look at just all of that open space," right? Or we'd be in North Carolina and say, "Oh, look how beautiful the Green Mountains," right? This idea of these beautiful green mountains of Appalachia, North Carolina. We love North Carolina. And I guess what inspires me is you can't help but be hopeful and energetic and optimistic about this country when you see it through the eyes of a child. So I hope I never lose that perspective because it does inspire me every day.
Well, Mr. Vice President, you inspire us every day. We are praying for you. We are praying for your family. We are praying for this incredible administration, for, of course, President Donald Trump, and we are honored that you are here with our CPAC family.
And I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
It makes you think for a minute, doesn't it? There are much worse things than death, right? We're all going to die, losing a loved one, but losing your soul and you're still alive, and for the next 50 years, you're like a soulless thief. You're a soulless human being who's greedy, who doesn't care about your community. You become soulless. That's worse. God help us. God help us, everyone. Yeah, unbelievable.